Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and in today's current events video, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself because this is stuff that always comes up. I get people who ask all the time, who are you to be giving fitness advice? Who are you to be putting out routines? I don't think that you look good enough. Yeah, I know you're older. I know you suffered some medical issues, but who are you to give advice? You don't look as good as some of these guys on the covers of magazines. You don't look as good as some of the other fitness YouTubers. Why should I listen to you at all? Who are you to even give advice? So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. You know what? It's true. I do not have the physique of some of these guys. Some of these guys have impressive physiques that I would never have the genetics to even achieve, no matter if I emulated their diet, their routine, and maybe even their drug stack. Some of these guys are just genetically gifted with certain structures. I don't look as good as some of them, and you know what? I can accept that. And here's the thing. A lot of you out there are like, well, I followed these guys, paid for their programs, paid for their meal plans, and after 2 years, I still didn't look like them. And if that's you, and if that's a lot of you out there, you might want to rethink something. Is it their advice that really got these guys where they are? Or is it a combination of their genetics, combined with certain drugs that you may not be willing to use for legal reasons, health reasons, financial reasons, whatever it happens to be? But again, maybe just their genetics. Maybe they don't even follow the routine that they gave you. Think on that for a moment. How many people out there follow a certain person on YouTube or a certain fitness guru because of the way they look and they end up not looking like them? Probably the overwhelming majority. And that's the thing. I'm not giving guys advice to look like me. I'm giving people general advice based upon their specific goals. And you know what? The advice I give you guys, it's free. You don't get caught up in an investment trap. If I give you a set of advice and you don't feel it's right for you, it's not like you paid for it. It's free. And almost you guys will find when you come here, my advice is pretty reasonable for fitness enthusiasts. For people who are chasing strength goals, even to some extent aesthetic goals. A lot of my advice is useful for entry-level power lifters, entry-level strength athletes, football players, rugby players. I give advice for all these people. You know what? My advice isn't intended for people who want to become professional bodybuilders. It's not. You know what? My advice isn't intended for someone who decides they want to make a living as a fitness model and be on the cover of a magazine. You know what? My advice may not be the best advice for that. And I can accept that. But I can promise you that 95% of you out there, I can give you advice that's going to help you. And you know what? My advice is evidence-based. It's based on my years of experience in this, based on my years of experience researching, watching other people, observing other people, my own training with other people over the decades, keeping up with the current trends in strength and conditioning, keeping up with the current trends in nutritional science, sports sciences. And you know what? My advice isn't always right. I accept that. But there have been times when I've come back and said, you know what, I was giving a piece of advice a year ago, and in retrospect, based on new evidence that coaches have figured out, either researching with tons of athletes or clients or out in the field, or new scientific evidence has come out that suggests that maybe I wasn't right. And you know what? I'm going to take that advice back and change it. And that's the one thing I also will do. I always keep up with the current trends out there. And you know what? I am willing to change my advice based upon the evidence. Because that's what a lot of it comes down to. You've got to follow the evidence that's out there. The human body is a machine. A very, very, very complex machine. And yes, it varies a little from person to person. Not everyone's the same. But it is stuff that can be studied. It can be looked at. And I will always keep up with that. And here's the thing. I will keep up with that. I always will try to give people out there reasonable advice for average Joes and Janes just trying to get into better shape. Maybe they want a stronger deadlift. And I'm a reasonably strong guy. Am I the strongest in the world? No, I'm not blessed with the genetics to be the strongest in the world. But I'm pretty strong. I've been invited to Worlds in powerlifting after getting sick, coming back from a major medical illness. I still earned my way to be invited to Worlds in the WPC. But now that I'm not competing anymore, I'm outside of the competitive mindset. My mindset is geared more towards overall fitness, health, athleticism, strength, higher quality of life. And that's what I provide to people And I'm trying not to give advice that isn't unreasonable. And I'll be the first to admit to people, sometimes my advice that I'm giving may not work for you in your situation. I try to give advice for people in different situations, and it may not work for you. And if my piece of advice doesn't work for you, it's not going to work for you. You can't use it. Throw it away. That's okay. It's okay. Throw it away. If it's not going to work for you, then it's not going to work for you. I didn't charge you anything for it. You didn't lose anything. And that's the other thing that I do. Why should people listen to me? Because I'm not conning you. I'm not trying to sell you an overpriced product. Currently, I don't have anything for sale. Will I eventually probably open a Patreon with a small paid membership? Will I probably eventually get over back into merchandising? Probably. But I'm never going to charge people an arm and a leg. And I'm never going to charge people for things that should be free. I mean, a workout program, that should be free. I'm not going to charge people for a workout program. I'm not going to charge people for basic diet advice. That's stuff that should be freely given. You know, that's general information. I'm never going to charge you for that. What else am I going to do? Because I'm not ripping anybody off. I'm interested in protecting the community's money, and I'm interested in protecting your safety. I'm the first person out there to call out the people who are conning you, who are trying to take away your hard-earned money with an overpriced or a useless product. I'm the first one to say, hey, this is probably a waste of money. You know what? Most of the stuff in this industry is a waste of money. The majority of it is. I'm not selling any of it. I don't have a financial incentive to try to get you to buy things that you may not find particularly useful in the best case, and in the worst case might actually hurt you, because a lot of this stuff out there is dangerous. A lot of things out there that the fitness world sells are dangerous, from the supplements to even some of the training equipment. It could hurt your results. I'm not going to pimp a Bane mask to you. I'm not going to pimp blood flow restriction bands to you. You know why? Because I don't think that you need them, and I don't think they're particularly helpful. And I think in some cases they're dangerous. What I will always promote to you are the basics that are time proven in the real world, the basics that are time proven in the laboratory, the basics that are time proven out on the athletic field. That's what I'll promote. That's what I'll always promote. And that's what I promote. See, I'm not promoting anything special. It's just that in this environment of everyone selling all sorts of special and trying to give you optimal and ideal and perfection, because I'm not selling any of that, it might seem different. It might seem special. It might seem way out there, but it's not. I'm just promoting the basics. And because the basics are really hard to sell, it's real hard to put a price tag on the basics that people could, if they did enough research, could figure out on their own. You go read a few sports sciences books and some books on basic exercise science, nutritional science, sports nutrition. You'd figure out 80-90% of the stuff I'm teaching already if you go over to spend a few hundred hours reading these things. Most of you would. How do you put a price tag on that? I don't. I give it for free. I go do reading, I do research, and I give it out there. And a lot of things are just things I've noted over the years as far as injuries, things I've seen over the years. People who do certain behaviors tend to get hurt at higher rates. People who do certain movements repetitively or with too much volume tend to get nagging pains and aches that they don't need. They have to start wrapping stuff up. I provide stuff like that. Basic injury prevention, common sense training. Common sense training, common sense nutrition. That's what I promote. And that shouldn't be that difficult to promote. And I think most people, when they come here, they start listening. The majority, I get a lot of people come here, well, I heard all this crazy stuff about you and hate, and I came here and I was going to make fun of you, and I started listening, and I realized a lot of what you're saying just makes sense. You're a lot more reasonable and rational and calm than the stories I've heard. Exactly. Because that's the reality of it. That's what you're going to find. And you come here, you find I'm not conning you. I'm not trying to rip you off. I'm not going to promote anything that's overly crazy. And I'm sure as hell not going to put a price tag on absurdity and try to sell it to you. You know what, I'll tell you that for most of you, you follow some basic training programs, basic strength training, basic cardio, follow a good balanced diet. You'll do a lot better than you have been doing. That's the majority of fitness right there. You don't need to buy special products for that. You don't need to buy special products for that. You don't even need that extreme of a diet for that. You don't need an extreme program for that. For the vast majority of people out there, even watching YouTube fitness, all you need is the basics. The basics will carry you through the novice levels in competitive powerlifting. It'll carry you through high school football to college. It'll carry you through that first 100 pounds of fat loss. It'll carry you to a 400 to 500 pound deadlift if you're a healthy young male and with no straps, no belt. Again, stuff you don't need. A little bit of basic hard work with proper training programming goes a long way. Combine that with a little bit of smart nutrition, you'd be surprised what you can get from it. Now, is that going to make you look like the guy on the cover of the magazine? Probably not. But you know what? The guy on the cover of the magazine doesn't even look like the guy on the cover of the magazine year round, does he? But he's sure willing to sell you a program and a diet to help you look like that. He didn't talk to you about how he messed with sodium and fluid balance and certain drugs and diuretics and steroids and special lighting from for that photo shoot or that video where he has his shirt off. He didn't tell you about that, did he? Because that's a big part of it. A lot of which are being sold as illusion. And a lot of these guys genuinely look really good year round. Not all of them. And very few of them look like they do on the cover of that magazine. And the ones that do look really, really good year round, 99% of the time, they're very genetically gifted to be able to get away with that. Most people aren't going to be able to do that. And oftentimes that involves using certain drugs year round that you may not be willing to use. Not always, but it often does. I'm not here to promote any of that. I'm here to just promote the basics. And you know what? Just because I don't have a certain genetics and doesn't look a certain way doesn't mean my advice won't make you look better than me. You might be more genetically gifted than I am in a lot of areas. You might be able to take my advice and look 100 times better than I've ever looked. And I think you'll find if most of you look at what I have to say, most of it's pretty reasonable. It's pretty heavily based by the evidence. It's based on scientific evidence. It's based on real world practice. None of it's particularly extreme. None of it's out there. And none of it's worthy of slapping a price tag on. But you know what? It'll probably work better than 90% of the advice that people will charge you money for. So maybe that's why you should listen to me. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.